Hello and welcome back to the 30th episode of the Tower Sports Advising Podcast. Today we've got one of the most influential voices in youth baseball, a guy who's built a massive platform, not by chasing trends, but challenging how the game is taught. Coach Ferber, Jason Ferber, everybody.
Appreciate you guys having me on. Thank you.
No problem. I mean, it's been a long time in the making. I feel like we've been trying to obviously book this with how busy you are, and we are obviously with baseball, but it feels like 6, 7, 8 months now, right?
Yeah, from the initial contact, it's been a while, but I'm glad we got it done.
Awesome. All right, diving into your background, originally from New York, currently resides in California. I'm going to say this, is played college baseball. Is it called Canada College?
Kenyatta.
Kenya.
Yeah, it's a JUCO in
California,
Redwood
right?
City. Yeah, California. Yep.
Awesome. So diving kind of into the beginning of our opening segment here is you built one of the most influential baseball platforms. What's the biggest lie parents and players are still believing today?
I think one of the biggest lies that parents and players are believing is that the whole ranking system at a young age, I think, is a pretty big lie. And I don't think that it's meant in some diabolical scheme to be a lie. It's just that the foundation, the whole premise of ranking a kid that hasn't gone through puberty makes no sense. And if you look at who the highest ranking 11, 12-year-old players right now, I've done it before. All you have to do is just go back 4 years, take the 16U top ranked players, right, of right now, and just go back and see who was ranked top 10 in the country at 12 and who was ranked top 10 at 16. Generally, you won't see not even one of the same players. So obviously, if I'm 12 and I'm 6'2" and 180 pounds, I'm going to be producing more force than a kid that has not hit puberty. So all the top ranked players just end up being the kids that have already gone through puberty and they have man strength. The problem with that is that the way that baseball works, youth baseball, is they start getting thrown all of these sponsorships. I got a sponsorship with this company and I got brand new bats and this company and this organization wants to fly me to go play over here because I'm ranked top in the country. And people start worshiping you for things that shouldn't even be worshiped. They're worshiping you because you were physically developed earlier than other kids your age. You get a false sense of who you are as a baseball player. And a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times when that happens, you take your foot off the gas pedal when it comes to practice and development because you're not chasing anybody anymore. You guys know as well as anybody else, if you go work out in the weight room and everybody else is maxing out at 185 and you're repping 225, you have a different view of who you are than if you go into a weight room and everybody else is warming up at 225 and you're maxed out at 225. It's really simple, you know? So I think that that's one of the things that kind of has gone astray and it gives people a real full sense of who they are. It's not an accurate reality of what's going on.
Peter, you want to touch on this? Because this is your favorite topic of how
Yeah.
rankings don't really matter at a young age.
Yeah. I mean, it's the funny thing. I was going to touch on it before. Like we were talking about my nickname, right? Like when I was 8 years old, right? I was the smallest kid on the field, but you at 8 years old, it felt like you were 6 feet already. You know what I mean? And what Ferbs just touched on is like development, like growth wise, your body, it's just a crapshoot of who luckily got to be 6'1" at 12 years old and who's the 4'11" kid who actually knows how to play baseball. And it was funny. We touched it on the last podcast. And next thing you know, I look up Instagram and it's the 9U Texas rankings. And I'm like, what are we doing? At 9U, you should just be playing Little League and maybe some travel ball and having fun with your friends. And we're out here ranking 9U Texas. It's like, I know Texas is a whole different thing in California and Florida than it is up here in New England. But like, what are we doing? For me, Ferbs, if you ever see me say anything, I think it's the biggest BS because they're 9 years old. Like, who cares? Like I said it, like when we get up to that 14, when they hit high school, yeah, rankings start to matter. And I was going to ask you this. Do you think parents feed into it more or the kids feed into the rankings more at that younger age?
Well, they both do. I think it's hard to put blame or on anybody because we all crave as humans. We want people to clap for us. We want accolades, right? We want people to make us feel good about who we are. It's just that anything can be overdone. And that's a topic that like I always go back to is all these things, rankings, travel baseball, tech, data, it's all tools. These are all just tools. Some people use them the right way, and some people don't use them the right way. A lot of people OD on the tool, right? You can OD just on trying to train velocity. You can OD on working out. You can OD on playing too many games. Playing, there's a million different ways that people misuse tools. If you have a chainsaw, you know how to use it. It can help you chop a tree down pretty easy. If you don't know how to use it, you can probably chop your arm off and kill yourself, right? So it's about knowing how to use the tool, why it's there, and how to apply it to your development.
Absolutely. I think that's for me. It's like when we're teaching these kids at a young age, it's to get them, like you said, to know how to use the chainsaw properly. Translate
Yes.
that into how to use their glove or how to run properly or how to make contact with the ball. And it's not, hey, let's go play in this 9U perfect game showcase and see if we can get ranked as a top 6 team in the country. It's they're developing. It's we're trying to make them better baseball players, not go get these wins and let's go win 30, let's go 32-8 and see what we can get ranked by the end of the season.
Well, when's the first time either of you guys got on a plane to go play baseball? At what age?
College.
Yeah.
College.
For me, I was like 19 or something. I
Yeah.
never got on a plane.
It was my freshman year.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering why all of a sudden do people have to get on a plane for any reason at 11, 10, 9, 12? Why? I don't get it. And the system makes it, you believe that if you don't, you're somehow falling behind. And obviously, as a parent, and that's why it's very hard for me to blame parents because I have a young son, and you don't, as a parent, want your son to miss out. You don't want them to get left behind. Something that they're passionate, whether he was playing the piano or he was in a science fair or he was like a organized dance, synchronized dancing, any of these things. You want to keep up with the Joneses because you don't want to be the reason that your child falls behind, but it's all a farce, right? And that's what the problem is. I talk to a lot of people about where this sport has been heading, and especially at the youth level. Nobody wants to face the reality of the sport that people want to say is America's pastime, which I still believe it is. I'm old school, and I think it's still the greatest sport ever. It's become more and more country club ish. And if people, oh, it's a country club sport like lacrosse or one of these things or some of these sports. For me personally, it's hard for me to deny what that is because if you have a young player that's, let's say, 12 years old, say one of you's got a son, Zach, you got a son that's 12 and he is competitive. He's a cut above most of the kids that are his age. And you can clearly see it. You can see the kid. Anybody can look and go, wow, he's faster. He hits the ball harder and further. He throws it more accurately and harder. So at 13 years old, if you want to keep that kid competitive, where are you playing? Other than if you have an extra $15,000 or $20,000 laying around of disposable cash for your family to be able to fly to all these places, take days off of work, get somebody to watch your dog. You have other children, maybe they have siblings. You need an extra 15 to 20 grand of just disposable cash to be able to just play competitively or go to the way that the system is currently set up. Or else you're just going to play regionally with a local team, which other people look at it and go, the people that are playing travel baseball will make you feel like you're somehow missing out. Which in ways, if you want to go find competition now, obviously they have everybody go to one place with the best competition. But that's what makes it country clubbish. And it's why a lot of the participation numbers are down for youth baseball is because people can't afford it. It's
I
sad,
think
to be honest.
there, and obviously you came to visit our travel program, right? And like you look at essentially like I'm very like you, right? Like I'm cut. I'm very like exactly what I'm gonna say, but it's like parents are like, oh, I see this and I see this and I see this, so they're like, I want to do that too. But then like when I'm on the back end, because obviously I do recruiting, which podcast here and help kids get into schools and do all those fun things, but I also do travel baseball as well. And you try to tell these kids, like, when parents ask me, let's just say I'll take 13, right? First year in the big field. And I try to tell them, I'm like, be happy that we're playing locally right now. Because one, your pocket's going to be thankful. Two, you're actually going to be able to like live your life as a normal person for the meantime, right? Until they get into that high school era of like, all right, if I want to get challenged, I got to go elsewhere. And then three, like your kids are going to play just as good competition. Like, I think the reality of parents and players has become so blown out of proportion. I don't know how it is in California with like organized sports without travel, right? With just like Little League, Cal Ripken, all those things. Like around here, they're like disappearing because it's just travel baseball has taken over. But then it's like, all right, now I'm paying $8,000 at 12 years old to go play 10 tournaments or whatever it is. So I think that's where it's gotten so out of control that it's almost ruined part of our game, because every not kid, but every parent is chasing like little Timmy played on this travel team. And it's like we talked on the last podcast, like when you're going to high school baseball, nobody cares where you play travel baseball. Like you're still going to make that team.
Yeah, I agree. I think that a grading system, not ranking necessarily, but a grading system, some type of a system that would mark your team how competitive they are would be extremely helpful. I know that some of these big tournament agencies don't want to do that because it would stop 400 teams coming to an event where only 10 of them have a chance of winning. However, if you're beating soundly these regional teams in your area, maybe you get to double A, right? And now you can compete in these double A events. And then you beat some of those guys in this region, a bigger region, in your triple A team. And you're keeping a triple A team facing a triple A team, even in pool play. And the guys that are still developing, that are younger, can play in the single A brackets and play against each other and get better. And if they start winning a lot of events, they can move up. But putting some of these teams that's a single A team against a quad A team that has 10 POs that they flew in everywhere and 10 starters, well, what do you expect to accomplish? You're not going to be competitive. I don't know what you expect. Like, you're not going to catch lightning in a bottle and beat a team that has 10 POs when you have two in a tournament. It's just not going to happen.
Well, I think there's another part of that. Like you do see teams, right, that are essentially can compete with those guys that can fly people in. Like we said on the podcast, like ZT Prospects, Canes National, East Cobb, all those teams, right? Like you do rarely see regional teams. Like let's take our area of New England, right? You do see a team that's based out of New England that can compete with those guys, right? But the hard part with those guys is, let's just take a scout team, like a Padre scout team or whatever one of those are. They're just picking rosters year by year. So how on a perfect game or prospect select or those things, how can you rank that team going back to the bracket? It's too much work on a perfect game, a prospect select of all those on the back end to be like, oh, they just put this team together. We don't really know what they are. But then it goes back to rankings of maybe 15 out of 30 of those kids are top in the country.
Yeah. Yeah, you got a point. I mean, I don't know. I think any team can beat any team in baseball on any given day. Obviously, that's what makes the game fun. However,
Uh-huh.
if you're playing 8 games in a week and you don't have the pitching depth, that's a lot different than just playing it one game against a team where you have your best arm, they have their best arm, and you're going for it. You're going to, when you're already having position players that don't practice pitching starting on the mound, you're not winning anymore. And so it becomes an arms race. I don't know what the solution is, but I think having some type of a developmental system where your team, just like some type of a governing body that would say, this is what qualifies you to get in this particular event. And until you're at that level, there's no point you flying all your families to Texas, right? When you live in Maine until you get to this level. You know what I mean?
To go 0-5 and not even have a chance. And you're like, oh, I'll treat it as a vacation week. It just got worse.
Yeah. All the dads can drink beers at the hotel bar and hang out and talk about Timmy. You know what I mean? And it's like a vacation. It's like, I don't know. A lot of parents I see do that. They use it as their own personal vacations.
Right. All right. Moving on to the next question. If you had a 12-year-old player came to you today, what's the first 3 things you're evaluating?
First 3 things I'm evaluating in order for him to make my team,
No, just
or
like what you
just
evaluate,
overall.
like what you look for. Like if your guy comes to you and whether it's a lesson, a team, whatever, right? Like what are the first three things that you look at in a player at 12 years old?
I think you're always going to start with the looks test, just because it's the first thing your vision sees. I mean, before you do anything, you're going to see how well the guy's put together. Is he physical? Is he athletic? Does he walk funny? Does he jog funny? Does he throw a baseball? Does his arm action look clean or not? So I do look at physical body types, and also I look at you do metrics. Physical stuff matters. It has to matter. And you can't just go, yeah, physical tools don't matter. It's just he's a real high energy guy and he's competitive. You got to at least be able to produce the forces that it requires to play at the speed of any level that you're playing at. So I get that part of it. But assuming you check the boxes of you can run as fast as you need to run and throw a baseball as hard and accurate as you need to and hit a ball hard enough to get a line. I don't know, you might call it old school, but I do respect a strong handshake and eye contact with a first and last name. Some people kind of get away from that. And they think it's a little bit old school. I like when a kid stands out like that and says his name and has a little purpose to what he's doing when he walks, how he walks up and things like that. That definitely matters. I also look at his interaction with the other kids that are out there, how they play catch. If nobody, if all the kids have never met each other and it's a tryout, like to see how they find a throwing partner. How quick does that happen? How does it happen like that? And kind of see the interactions between them. And I like to watch them play catch. I think watching a kid play catch says a lot about how well he understands how to warm up, how much pride he takes in his craft. You can tell a lot from a kid's arm action about how much he throws, you know? So those things I think would be at the top of my list.
I
I
think,
don't know if you
go
saw
ahead.
it, Ferbs, but did you see the Oregon QB coach that came out yesterday or 2 days ago? He said his favorite question to ask his QB recruits is what's their favorite ice cream flavor, and he said if they think for more than 2 seconds, he doesn't like it because it shows indecisiveness. And he said, how can you play in Eugene in front of 100,000 people and it's 3rd and 11 and we need a first down if you can't even say what your favorite ice cream is?
That makes
So
sense. I like that.
I thought you would like that one because I was like, it's a cool thing to see, like mentally. It's like these coaches think of these things, and it's like every kid wants to know what a coach is thinking, but every coach is thinking so many different things. Like you said, you're an old school guy. That QB coach thinks about ice cream, right? Like so many people have different things. And so we always talk about it's like there's no clear cut answer on what a coach is looking for or what a coach likes in you. It's what the coach likes. So we always say you can't beat yourself up because, hey, UCLA's coach didn't like you because the way he recruits isn't the same as maybe a BC, right? And kids get upset because they might get shut down from a school just from the way the coach thinks. But it's usually if you and your coach don't see eye to eye, you're either A, wasting time, or B, it's just not going to be a good fit. And we're always looking for good fits.
I like that question. It's kind of a little, sometimes when I'm on phone calls with players, not physically on the field, I like to ask them things. They're not really loaded questions, but something like, if your friends could change one thing about you, what would it be? And it forces them, because usually they're asked questions like, you're a pitcher? Oh, you're a fastball slider changeup guy? Okay, cool. What velo do you sit at? And this and that and everything else. It's like when you ask somebody to reflect about what other people actually think about them. So a lot of times you'll be surprised. They'll think about it and be like, shoot, sometimes I don't answer texts as good as I probably should. I joke around too much. Sometimes my friends tell me to be more serious, but it kind of forces them to think about how others view them. And a lot of times kids these days don't. One of my biggest things always is like people don't care about, generally, they don't care about how smart you are or how much money you got. They care about how you make them feel when you're around them. And I try to tell that to my players all the time. It's like the core thing of what I try to teach beyond the baseball field is how do you make people feel when you're around them? When somebody says your name, there's an emotion attached to it. When somebody says Zach Tower, Josh Tower, if somebody says Jason Ferber or Coach Ferber, there may be some guys that say, I hate that guy. I would like for the majority of people to be like, yeah, that actually puts a smile on my face. Or that just is synonymous with this other thing. But your name itself carries a reputation with it. I think reputation in baseball is so big that people underestimate. Like we were talking about before about what parents kind of miss out on is that if you have the reputation of a guy that shows up early, he's dependable, stays late. He's the hardest, not just the best player, but he's also the hardest worker. All these things add up. And this goes all the way. We're talking about youth stuff now. I work with guys in the big leagues that I've coached since they were young, and they're current big leaguers. And I have had conversations with some of my guys that are AAA guys that are up and down AAA guys. Those are some of the most interesting characters. The guys that somebody gets injured or somebody goes out with COVID or somebody has a rough patch and they call them up. And it's like, you have 25 at bats or 20 at bats to be able to stay here, or you're just no matter what you do, you could bat 1,000. You're going back because the guy's a franchise player, but that you're filling in for, right? And I've had conversations where those guys will say something like, if they're a lefty hitter, they'll say, "Yeah, I'm not. It's tough, man, because when I go in, they don't. If there's a lefty starting, I don't hit. Then they'll come try to DH me. I get in at bat at the end of the game. It's some dude cutting it loose at 98. I'm just like, thanks, bro. You know what I mean? Like, what am I just out of nowhere? Just get up and just hit a rocket. And the guy's throwing 98 with not playing on the field, and they start seeing all these things and going, damn. My whole life I've been the guy that you can't start the game without me in center field. The games are like, right? And I just pretty much have not had a bunch of failures. And then you get to this point where you're getting used in these really, really deep, like specific situations. And they'll complain and say, how am I supposed to get hot? Or how am I supposed to do this? My reply is always like, if you are going to game 7 of the World Series and Mike Trout is available, let's just say before he got injured, I mean, in his younger years, he's available. Where are you batting him? Right? Batting him second or third in the lineup, right? Yeah, okay, cool. All right. If Mike Trout's 0 for 10, where are you batting him? Second or third. Okay. If he's 0 for 20, where are you batting him? Second or third. Why is it that he gets to be 0 for 25 and still there's no question he's batting third, whether it's a lefty, a righty, or whatever? It's because of reputation, right? And every one of us has a reputation. And if you the younger guys, if you haven't built up your resume enough in the baseball world, you can't be mad when a college coach you walk in as a freshman and the guy goes, dude, I don't care what you did in high school. We got a guy that was a freshman All-American in front of you. It's his spot to lose. It's not your spot. And so, like, it's interesting. I just think like how much it matters over time, your reputation.
I think an important part there too is, and it's like you obviously you do what you do at a way higher level than what we do, right? But it's like we tell recruits, kids we coach, or kids that we try to help, right? Even without what we do, right? But it's like when you're going to things, kids don't, especially in today's world, like they don't realize like how much our reputation of us helping them get to that point, whether they go to that school or not, actually matters. And I think that is like a subject that's never talked about to anybody. Like because kids will go there, maybe they drop an F bomb and they get crossed off a list, or maybe they have bad body language or whatever, right? Maybe it goes good and nothing happens. But I feel like more is now the back end of like kids don't understand like you're putting your name on the line for them and there's no kind of return in there. And it's like, oh, they didn't like me, whatever. Like I feel like they kind of brush it off when it's like, all right, you didn't have any opportunities until that came about. And it's us giving you a lifeline or you giving a kid a lifeline that maybe was under recruited. And I feel like that part's not talked about even close to enough because 90% of recruiting now I feel like is honestly who knows who. It's not, hey, I just found this kid at a baseball field in California or in the inner city of New York City. It's Coach Ferber knows 150 schools and he's going to connect you to somebody. We know maybe 100, we're going to connect you to somebody. And kids are like, well, I'm not getting recruited or I didn't see this or coaches aren't seeing me on Twitter or whatever it is, right? But kids don't kind of hold that value anymore of like, if you were getting recruited right now, you do all the right things. Like you said, shake your hand, look the coach in the eye. How many kids actually do that now?
Not a lot.
And they don't realize like that stuff actually matters. And it's like, whether you're a grown up like we are now, and we get a family, whether you're a high school athlete or a college athlete, maybe it's just you meeting a coach for the first time. And maybe it's even your travel coach or a guy that's giving you a lesson, right? Like that stuff actually matters. And people are like, nah, that doesn't matter anymore because the generation isn't taught. Like, I mean, I'm 31, right? Like my generation was kind of that last end of like what it is now. And like, if I didn't hold the door, like I always go back to the hold the door for the old lady. Like if a kid came to practice one day and was like, hey, I held the door for some 90-year-old lady, I care more about that than if you went 3 for 4 on the field because that just tells me you're a better person. Because at the end of
Sure.
the day, baseball runs out, right? But people don't realize that. They're like, they're so focused on next baseball. And it's like, did I make a good kid or did I just make a really good baseball player and a really shitty kid?
No, I agree with that for sure.
All right, moving on to the next question is I know a million people have probably asked you this, but what separates the kids you post from the kids you don't?
No, actually, not a lot of people have asked me that. I think I've made a pretty conscious effort since I started posting highlights of players that I, number one, have a relationship with the player. I don't just nilly willy post random kids. There's different different people, there are different agencies that are out there, like youth prospects. I love Ryan Nakajima. He's a good friend of mine, but he just basically sees a player that's a ranked player, post their swing, and that's purely for I think tools and video purposes to see how a player moves. I tend not to do that with players I don't know because I simply want to be able to answer questions of people that are commenting about the player. So, for instance, if I've never met the kid before, all I know is he's ranked by perfect game or PBR pretty high. He can hit a ball this hard, and this is his name, and this is where he's from. If I post him and people say, ask me questions about his performance or where he trains, what's his training routine, how is he at school, college coach asks, how's his grades, like a high academic school. I like to be able to answer questions in an educated fashion. So I tend to only post guys that I have relationships with. I've either coached them personally or coached against them or trained them off the field or something like that. If you go through, you're not going to find, I don't think anybody that I just saw some kid. Oh, he's the number one ranked player in Florida. I have no idea who he is, but check this out. I don't do it like that, but I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's enough
I
people that
mean,
do that, I feel like.
yeah, I think it's obviously to kind of goes back. Obviously, I've met you in person too, but it's like to who you are, like what you've built from obviously nothing to now. It's like you give everybody you know or ever met a nickname. So it's like for
Yeah.
you in the back of your mind, you're thinking more about the nickname than you actually are about what the actual player's name is. And I'd love to like pick your brain on like, do you, if a college coach would reach out to you, do you call him by his nickname or do you call that you gave him or do you call him by his actual name?
I I tell him this is what I call this is his government name, what his parents and the federal government has on his birth certificate. Like a kid that, for instance, he's like an Italian kid from Brooklyn and he likes Chinese food. And like I'll call him Anthony Egg Rolls, something like that. You know what I mean? And so it just is a way for me to remember these guys. And it's kind of funny because the college coaches, when I send them the contact, it'll have the nickname in there. And it probably puts a smile on their face just because they always want to know like that. Like, where do you get this nickname? Why do you? It's funny. You know what it is? When I had this really young team of like 11, 12 you kids, and I was nicknaming it even back then, mostly because it's easy to remember. It's fun. It makes everybody kind of smile when they hear it. It gives the kids some type of culture and connection with each other. It says that being able to laugh at ourselves is, I think, important. It's an important skill to have is to be able to not just dish it out, but be able to take it from your teammates, not from outside people in the world, but it shows that you have feel a little bit if you can joke and also take a joke as well as give one out. But I was naming guys for some reason. I kept on naming them like these mafia these old guys these real people that killed like hundreds of people, murdered people, were in jail for 100 years. Tommy Karate from King's Highway, these guys that murdered a bunch of people. And all the parents, they would say to me, comes out, hey, coach, we like that you're nicknaming our kids, but why is everybody got to be a murderer or a gangster or somebody? Why can't it be like a Disney character? Somebody said, I'm not naming any kids some Disney character. Everybody's got to be a gangster, right? Everybody. And it was all these like movie characters from like the films that I watched. But I think it's just part of how I grew up. A lot of people in Brooklyn get nicknames, and it's almost like a rite of passage. Like Pee Wee. I'm sure you grow at some point you might have not liked your nickname, but it's cool to have a nickname. Be like, yeah, it's Pee Wee.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was, and then it hasn't changed. Like we talked at the beginning of the podcast, like getting my nickname when I was 6 years old. When I put on when I die, my gravestone's gonna have it. Like everything that I've had name wise has Pee Wee on it. So I liked it, and I think I came across your stuff a few years ago, and I think one thing for me that I've always appreciated is when you write up like your message or whatever you post about the player, you're not blowing smoke up anyone's ass. Like it is heartfelt and you mean every word you say. So it's like you're not trying to appeal to anyone. You're just genuinely showing off what type of kid he is. And then you throw your nickname halfway through the thing. And it's
Yeah.
like it might be a serious beginning. And then, like you said, it's a playful end of, hey, this kid is a normal kid, but he also has a personality and he's a fun kid to be around. Like you show him that he's not just a baseball player. He's a person on and off the field. And that's why I love looking at your videos, because if you see any of them, it's like a 2-paragraph essay, but it goes in depth on what he is as a baseball player, but it also shows the side of him that you're getting, that if you're recruiting him, what he's going to be like as a teammate, as a person in the classroom, just as a human being. And you know they're going to be pretty good human beings overall.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You know why? Is because nicknames show another level of a relationship. You don't call somebody a nickname that you don't have a closer level of relationship with. You don't nickname the lady at the bank that's taking your money. You know what I mean? She's just a random person at the bank that you're doing business with. But people that you care about or people that have that extra level. And I think that my players that I've had players come up to me that have joined my team after, like a year or two of the core group being there, and they'll actually come up and say, Coach, when do I get a nickname? I say, that's not something I can just come out of. You're going to do something or say something, or I'm going to think of a movie character. We're going to do something in the game. It's got to come natural. I'm not forcing a nickname, but I think that the kids, they really feel like, yo, I'm part of something now. I got a nickname, and it's cool in this day and age. It's very tough to have a transformational relationship with a player, whether you're at high school or college level. And because make no mistake, there's only two different types of relationships, really. There's transactional relationships and there's transformational relationships. And the transactional relationships are the ones that we do every day, all day. I exchange money for some goods or services. That's a transaction. The transformational relationship oftentimes starts out as a transaction. It can start out like that, but over time, it changes into something else, right? And you start to see the guys that are doing transactions with, let's say, lessons. You're looking at the kid, he looks like $100 bill for an hour. That's what he looks like. He gives you the 100. You flip him balls on a thing. You tell him, "Hey man, stay in the middle of the field. Good work. I need to barrel more balls." And then the guy leaves. There's a transaction. Then there's these other guys that go a step further and they start figuring out, how is this playing in game? Maybe I need to go actually watch your game in person so I can be a better private sector coach off the field. Maybe I need you to get some video and share it with me. So, and not just the double you hit. I need to see the strikeouts and the rollovers. So you can show me some of these things and we can work on them so we can see if what we're doing here in this practice means anything at all, or if it's just a complete waste of time. And so those transactional relationships change from the transaction and it transforms into something different where the player feels like he has a connection. He starts feeling like he can trust the hitting coach and he can tell him about the bad stuff as much as the good stuff. I personally, when people try to claim hitters, I'm fine with people trying to claim hitting coaches that try to claim hitters. I'm not totally anti that because if you spend 5 years of your life in the most important development phase of a kid's career. I think that guys can have a major impact on not just their swing mechanics, but also the way they view the game, the way they approach practice, right? And how much they practice, how accountable they are for their practice and all that type of thing. I just think that you can't claim the only way you're going to claim a guy. When I say a guy's a guy, that's your guy, is if he's struggling, he comes to you, right? If a hitter out there starts to struggle and he's not approaching you, that's not your guy, right? If he's coming to you saying, "Yo, I'm lost. I feel like I got a hole in my bat. I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like I'm on time. I'm seeing it out of his hand. I'm just swinging and missing. What should I be doing? Can you help me?" That's your guy,
I think
you
the
know?
big one you said there was trust, right? Like we go into school, you do the recruiting visits, all this stuff, and like you believe what you believe and you get told these things. But at the end of the day, if your player doesn't trust you and the coach doesn't trust you to play you, relationships get that's how they burn and that's how bridges get burned because something that gets told and like you said like a coach might say something and then he might not live up to it and then no longer trust that coach, right? Or it's vice versa. If you're not performing on the practice field or you're not your grades are bad or you're just a terrible person, how can the coach trust you in the regional final to hey get down a sack bunt to move the runner into scoring position? So I think that was my big thing that I took out of what you said is trust factor is huge. And it's not only a player thing, it's a coach thing too, because the mutual respect, the best teams you have is when the coach trusts the player and all 40 guys you have before you go to regionals and it gets down to 25, all 25 of them trust the coach and they're all rowing in the same direction.
Yeah, I always thought it was interesting that all these guys in the big league level, they, even though they play for an organization that has $1 billion worth of analytics, right? They play for the Dodgers or they play for the Yankees. They have every piece of technology available, the most cutting edge technology, traject machines that are $1 million, matching people's arm slots and spin rates and spin efficiencies and pitch shapes and everything. They got guys that are big league hitting coaches that have 20 years of experience between playing and coaching at a big league level. They have all these advanced scouting reports on True Media, Hawkeye, all this stuff. And yet in the offseason, every single one of those guys goes back to their dude that's just in a cage throwing them BP, the same guy, some of them since they're 13, 14 years old, or their dad, right? Why is that guy's dad throwing in the home run derby to this big league all-star? He doesn't have a guy that can throw better BP, right? No, he's used to it. He
It's
trusts them.
it's trust. I mean, it's
Trust.
anything, right? Like I think that's what baseball when we played, what it is now, right? Like it's always been built off of trust. Like think of how many guys go back and play with or hit with, field with, throw with, whatever, the lesser qualified guy, not take money out of it, right? Just
Right.
because of the trust factor. And it's because you helped me get to where I couldn't think I could get to, right? And it's like, I'm sure you have a ton of stories on that, but it's like, how many guys when you first started were like, I'm going to trust Ferbs? And that not the following, not all that stuff, but it's like, how many guys believed in what you started to where they are now? I bet you, I don't know if it's a ton, but I bet you it's a pretty decent amount of guys because it's like you said, you grew up in Brooklyn. I'm sure everything wasn't, hey, I can do X, X, and X and have no problem and I get enough money to do it, right? It was you grinded it out, you built the relationships, and you got people that trusted what you wanted as a vision now.
Right. Well, it's crazy because like you take Pee Wee over here, right? Say Pee Wee he makes he opens a restaurant and it's called Pee Wee's Fine Dining, right? And he's up and running for 3 months and he's very happy with how much work he put into it and how he designed the restaurant and everything. And you, his brother, who's known him his whole life, he knows without a doubt you want to see him succeed. There's no question about that. He knows that in your heart it would disappoint you, make you frustrated, hurt you if you saw him fail after all the hard work he put in. And you go into his restaurant and you say, "Hey, Pee Wee, I think that the way that your system works from the waiter to the kitchen to how the food comes out, you might want to try doing it this way. Because when I got my burger, it was something was off. He's going to sit there and go, really? All right, cool. And he's going to think about it. At least he might not do it, but he's going to go, oh, maybe I should think about it. If it's me and I never met him and I just a random person off the street and I start, even if I'm a business prophet, the guy that consultant that comes in and does all that, if you have no idea who I am and I just start giving you random tips, which is what these hitting coaches do. A lot of these hitting guys, the gurus, a player will come in. They won't ask them any questions. They won't build. They skip this whole relationship building phase and just start telling them, swing this way, do this, move like this. Why? You ask them why. Why am I doing this? It's going to play better in a game. Your metrics are going to come up. You haven't even seen me swing in a real game. You haven't even, I've seen hitting coaches, these guys that are supposedly top hitting gurus. They don't even ask the kid when they come in, where do you bat in the lineup? The simplest question. Are you a leadoff guy? Supposed to get on base? What does your coach want? What is your actual coach who's putting the lineup together? Are you a middle of the order guy that you're going to get a lot of runners in scoring position or a third base with less than two and you need to put the ball in the air and try to get him in that way? Or are you an 8-9 hitter that he just wants you to wear down pitchers, move a runner, do all this? What's going to keep you in the game? Because if the kid is an 8-9 hitter right now, and his coach that puts it, we can certainly in the private sector, I want to improve his metrics, but what's the point of upping his power numbers if I'm also upping his swing and miss enough that his coach goes, that's not what I want to see from you. You're not playing anymore. Great. So now I'm right and you're sitting the bench. So I feel like having the communication between also the high school coach and the private sector guys that don't, or the college coach, and they don't sometimes see eye to eye, it's also important. It's not just all the hitting coaches' fault either. I think a lot of the field coaches don't realize how hard it is to actually make an adjustment in a cage setting, how hard it is to get a mechanics to actually do an adjustment of mechanics. It's hard work to do that. And I just feel like these type of relationship questions will allow the hitter to eventually come to you and say, yeah, I trust you enough to ask you about these swing changes.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
trust.
like
yeah,
you know how important your swing is to you. Swing's like a real personal thing. Like after you've honed it your whole young life and you've copied and try to mimic all your favorite players and you sat in the mirror doing all these dry swings, and you built this swing that's a really like it's a version of yourself. So it's like how you walk. It's like your signature. And then to just have somebody just go, yeah, scratch that. We're gonna rehack your whole kinetic chain and make you. It's like, wait, you know what I mean? Like I don't know, but there are kids that allow people to do that to them, to just take this swing and completely rehaul it without really knowing why they're doing it.
and I feel like most of them don't even want to know why. They just we're so driven on the result, right? So it's like, yeah, I just spent. Let's take a kid that's 12, starts hitting with you until maybe he gets the pro ball, right? Finishes college, gets the pro ball, and then he's like, well, everyone I go play pro ball with goes to this guy, so I go over here, and then
Yeah,
he comes back after that year and he's struggling. He's like, comes back to you and he's like, hey, what do I do? And your simple answer is probably go back to being you. Like that's why you were good for 12 to pro ball. It wasn't because, hey, this guy told me I need a little more tilt my swing to be able to hit the ball out of the park. Like go back to the guy, maybe you were a plus runner with doubles in the gap and triples, and now you're trying to lift the ball too much and your Ks are up. So I think like kids nowadays don't trust the full vision. They want hitting coach, pitching coach, fucking training coach, whatever, right? Like they want the full package. Like they can't put the entrust into that one person anymore. And it's
they
like
do that with
that's
first
how it
rounders.
right.
They take a guy that they pay $6 million to come play for them, and as soon as he gets there, they'll start tinkering with his swing mechanics.
I mean,
For me,
look at
if
Roman
go ahead.
Anthony. They're
Yeah,
I was
they're
just gonna go
messing with
there.
his arm slot. And
I don't know if
he just threw
if
a
I work.
ball into the dugout.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. If I work for if I work for a professional organization or some MLB affiliate, I was part of their hitting, their farm system or like a coordinator, like a player development guy, farm director. I wouldn't allow any method, quote unquote, be unleashed in my minor league system until I saw proof at the big league level that it was working for the big leaguers. I haven't seen, if you want to go see some haywire, crazy stuff that doesn't make any sense, go to every different level of the minor leagues and watch a different hitting coach with a different philosophy, teaching a different methodology and modality of training than the guy at the next level. And tell me, in the same organization, in the same system of guys, you're trying to keep some type of cohesive value system. How do you have a guy in single A and he values A, B, and C in hitting, and then you go to double A and this guy values something completely different? You know what I mean? If it's about development. So I think it starts at the top. I personally think that there's too many guys that try to change things based on how it looks. And the problem with that is that even though you can see something look a little bit funky on video, we don't know on video how hard a player's brain is working to actually produce the same move as the other guy, right? The same move that Aaron Judge produces when he swings a bat, whatever that move is, how hard his brain had to work to produce that move might not be the same. So if I need to put more brain power into producing the same move as this other guy, it's not the same thing. Because now when I'm in the box, my brain is working harder than the other guy to produce the same exact move. And I can't see that through a video.
Diving into mindset and development, you talk a lot about mindset. What's something coaches are completely missing when developing players?
Coaches are missing. I think a lot of coach. Are you talking about physical development? And how that works?
You can go wherever you want with it.
What I see a lot of coaches missing is that it's very tough when you like. I didn't have a background in movement. All I did was play and know what worked for me, but I never studied movement, human movement, kinesiology. I never understood why one guy balanced on his right foot better than his left foot. I never understood why a guy would in his setup, in his baseball setup, like his hitting setup, why one guy would be super tall like Christian Yelich or Cody Bellinger, and another guy would be super low on Soto or Bryce Harper, where his base was super wide, right? And so what happens is you get these things called cognitive biases as a hitting coach who are developing people. And all that means is a cognitive bias is for me is I worked with Zack from the time he was 13, and I did this foundational set of drills, and Zack leveled up. He got better. He ended up going to play in college, and he continued on doing it. So my system works because it worked on Zack. However, Josh, his younger brother, comes next to him, and it worked on Zack. Got to work on him. We do the same set of foundational drills, except his performance and his stats are not showing the same type of increases, and he's struggling. Why is that? Right? And so maybe he has a different dominant hand. Maybe he balances differently. Maybe Zack sees baseballs at the top of the strike zone clear or better than Josh. Josh sees pitches at the bottom of the strike zone a little bit better. He doesn't have as much trouble with changeups and stuff, but the way he sees spin. So I think that I think that one of the biggest problems is that people are looking at hitting as what's right and what's wrong. I don't look at anything anymore. I try not to say this is right or this is wrong. I try to look at what works best for the individual, what's optimal for the individual. And maybe one guy I work with really benefits off of the hack machine, seeing a lot of velocity. He likes to feel what the pitch pressure is like so that when in the game, he doesn't feel overmatched. He just wants to feel the pressure of the pitch. Whereas other guys, they want to feel more and feel good swings before their game, even if it's front flips or overhand BP from 30 that's just nice and easy and just throwing them cookies. There's no reason why every single guy, like I've tried it before. I'm not just saying this just to say it. I've tried it where I've had my whole team of hitters. I've gone out and seen a kid and nobody can hit a slider that day. Right? So logically, as a coach, I go, none of you motherfuckers can hit a slider. So you know what we're going to do? Before the game tomorrow, we're all going to crank this hack machine up and see 90-mile-an-hour sliders. And you guys are going to all figure it out. Yeah, it might help one guy, and the other 8 guys, it might completely dome them up and ruin them even more, right? And besides all that, nobody throws a 90-mile-an-hour slider that we're seeing. So a lot of times I see these eye-washy things where guys are, I'm like looking at a guy, he's got a high school player looking at 90-mile-an-hour sliders. I'm going, and he'll say, you need to practice. Practice needs to be harder than the game. Actually, it was like, bro, nobody, you're going to see a kid, a lefty, throwing 65-mile-an-hour, get me over breaking balls. And you're practicing off of 90-mile-an-hour wipeout sliders. I just think it's overdone. It's overcooked a little bit. I feel like doing individual drill designs based on each player's movement capabilities is helpful.
I mean, we hit with, you probably know him, Rich Gedman, Red Sox Hall of Famer,
He's
AAA
nasty.
batting coach. He
CC Chris Colabello loves him.
oh yeah, and
That's true. That was the whole
that's
crew
how we
back
met
in the
him.
day.
And for him, like Zach and I have known him since we were really, really young, knowing Chris and all that. But like getting to pick his brain, and then when we got older, we had the opportunity of getting a hit with him. He said the same thing. We played high level college baseball. Zach played a little bit of professional. You don't see a 92-mile-an-hour slider unless you're facing Jacob deGrom. Like, what's the point of practicing it? And he was a very big proponent of practicing what you're going to face. What's the point, like you said, of facing 84 if you're going to face a kid throwing 85? Like, you're just, you overusing training, and you're saying it's training when in fact, like you said, I love the term doming people up because we use that all the time. How mentally messed up do kids get because they face eight power sliders and they make contact with 0 of them? A, it didn't do anything for your practice, and B, it just made your player not even want to play today because he's like, I don't have a chance in the box. So Getty used to always talk about it. He's like, I'm going to train you for what you're going to see, because what's the point of training you for something you're never going to see? Because it doesn't make any sense. And you hit the nail on the head. And I just loved it because you see so many college coaches, high school coaches that try to be bigger than they are. And they're like, oh, I saw this team doing it and they're hitting turbo sinkers because the guy's a 92 to 94 guy who just runs it down, right? That's high level Division 1. If you're playing Division 3 baseball, you're not seeing a kid throwing turbo sinkers, right? Like you might,
Right.
at the best, you're seeing a kid throwing 80 to 89, 91 right down Broadway. It's like when you manicure these practices, you got to have some high level thinking going into it, or you're just going to waste 2.5 hours and the kids are going to be like, does this guy have any idea what he's talking about? And you're just wasting everyone's time because it's helping nobody, because your little ego is, oh, well, Coach Ferber did it, so I have to do it. It's like you said, everybody has a different way of doing things. And if you're not helping the kid, it's just hurting them. So what's
Well,
the
let
point
me.
of doing that?
I like that. Pee-wee, let me ask you a question. What are you guys' opinion on this? Because it's right along this same lines. I don't know if you guys know Johnny Gomes. He played
Mhm.
for like 13 years in the show, 2 World
Yeah.
Series. Cool as hell. We were having a conversation the other day, and we were talking about these hack machines. And I noticed also in spring training, I go around a lot of the guys that I train in the offseason. I always like to go to spring training to see their ABs and how they play against live pitching of all these. We're taking all these A swings, trying to get your A swing off, your optimal swing all the time, all off season. And then you go, how many times do you get this super healthy A swing off against live arms and dudes that are cutting it loose at like professional pitchers? It's not as high as we would like to hope it would be. And so I go to the majority of these organizations, take the hack machine, they crank it up between 95 and 100, and they use those foam balls. When you use the foam ball, you see 2 things. One, sometimes they'll clip it and it still looks like it was a line drive, but it wasn't squared up. So you're not really getting feedback from the ball as you would a regular ball. Now, I do understand that you don't want to blow guys' hands up and get hamate injuries from hack machines. However, from a developmental standpoint, when you hit a baseball the wrong way, in on your hands or off the end, you're automatically going to make an adjustment because you're going to, fuck, bro, that was not good. Right. I don't
Mhm.
want to feel that again. It's automatically telling you that swing was good. And I see guys taking these super healthy free swingers, just like you wouldn't be doing that in a live game, swinging like that if that was a regular baseball, right? But you're okay doing it on a hack machine with a foam ball because you're not going to get blown up. I think there is, from a rep standpoint, it's helpful to not hurt guys' hands and break bats and things. The guys don't want to break bats. But again, we're getting so far away from a regular baseball with an arm to see. At what point does it end? At what point do you go, dude, we have to have a wood bat hit a regular baseball, and that's how you get better. I just think such stuff gets so when people start moving in these directions, they don't know when to stop. Do you guys know, you guys understand what I'm like? Do you guys see that too?
You're right up my alley because I know you. For me, if this is the first time I've had the pleasure of talking to you, but for me, I'm super old school, even though I'm only 26 years old. Like, I never hit anything besides a baseball, and I didn't really hit off the hack. And when I got to Yale, and when I was there for right after we won the national title, and my head coach took the Yale job, the hitting coach there, he bought the squishy balls, and we started using them. And for me, I was confused because I've never seen it before. But I always thought to myself, I'm like, are we going to hit that ball in game? No, right? Like, you're going to hit a real baseball. And like you said, like, injuries and stuff. And when you're tying up millions upon tens of millions of dollars, you obviously don't want your best player getting hurt or breaking his hamate bone. But like you said, when you stray away from what works, because you're trying to reinvent the wheel, it's just going to hurt you in the end. And you see so many teams trying to do so many different things. And then you take, like, I'm a massive Phillies fan, and we just got Don Mattingly as our bench coach. I was the happiest person alive because, Don Mattingly's going to bring back the way he played and how he trained into a team that might need some more contact, because when Trey Turner and Schwarber and Harper go up there, they're trying to go big fly every time. Donnie Mattingly is going to be like, hey, maybe we shorten up here and hit a backside double instead of trying to hit a bomb. I know I kind
Right.
of went off from what you were talking about, but like, you see so many of these tools be brought in and you're like, does this actually help the kid, or is this just some eyewash because, hey, someone posted it and Aaron Judge is using it, so we got to use it? So I'm totally on your side with it. It's like, get back to the basics on actually building a swing and helping a player get better instead of just throwing tools at them and saying, hey, this is going to work for you.
Right.
So I got two things. I don't know how actually true this is. I saw this the other day, but if you don't take like the premium top of the line hack, like take the junior hack and like whatever the other hack is, supposedly if you put a normal baseball into one of those it's actually creating rise to the ball. I don't know how true it is. I don't know the study behind it, but I think that was some sort of the reason these foam balls have been made, is so that the ball is actually coming into you at a normal, like, perception. Yeah, yeah. Because it naturally,
So you're
like,
saying
if
the
you watch a lot of
an unrealistic spin rate on the regular baseball?
that didn't fact check it, but I did see someone talking about it. Because if
Could
you think
be.
about it, right, those wheels are spinning so fast that it's creating natural ride to a ball, and it's creating essentially balls that are rising above the eyes. And in my mind, it made a lot of sense, because think how many kids swing and miss on a hack, even if it's at like 60, 70 miles an hour. Because essentially, if you're setting up a hack, right, and you have those foam balls and it's here, here, here every time, and you put a baseball that has maybe a little rip in the seam, it's creating that launch of drop backside and get underneath the ball. But then it's like you said, I broke my hamate. It's one of the worst feelings y'all ever have in your life. I got it here, but I broke mine into three pieces, so it split two different times, and it was like I didn't even make contact with the ball. It sounded like the loudest foul ball anyone ever hit, and that was just my hand exploding.
Huh. Brutal.
But it's like, so I think, again, foam baseballs have become trendy. I think anything has become trendy, right? Like, if you post something tomorrow, is somebody in this world going to try it? I bet you
Yeah.
55 people are going to try it, right? But it's like, I think you've done a good job with this, of like, with guys that you are obviously, like, take Gomes, for example, played how many years in the big leagues, right? Like, his word matters just as much as yours does, right? And you never played a day in the big leagues, but you built that. So I think people are going to follow what is trendy and what is benefit. But I think a good thing that you've done is explain why it's beneficial. I feel like a lot of people don't tell you why it's beneficial. Like, hey,
Well,
the guy
I
you went,
try not, but
God, the guy you
no,
went and saw today,
I didn't mean to
right?
interrupt you. Go ahead. Yeah, Dylan Seward.
Yeah, the guy. Yeah, you went and saw him today, right? Maybe him training with foam balls is great because he's like you said, you posted that video, him 2-strike approach. Maybe that's what he's working on that day, and you need constant ball in the same place for 50 reps, right? Whereas if you put a natural ball in there and it maybe creates ride and it's not benefiting on him on what he's trying to train, whereas you as who you are would explain that to the audience, where most people wouldn't. It was just, oh, this kid's a Tennessee committee's whatever rank in the country. This is why he's doing it, and have no idea why he's actually doing it.
Well, I really try to be careful with, I know kind of sometimes people take things really literal and everybody's looking for information and little secrets, quote unquote, or cheat codes or secret drills. That's what people want. They want something that's going to skip them ahead or somehow give them an edge. When you said I never played in the big leagues, is absolutely true. And that's why if I've only seen, let's say, a 92 or 93-mile-an-hour fastball at the college level, and I don't pretend to know what it feels like to see a dude cutting loose at 98. I don't try to say that. If somebody has questions about that, I will bring in a guy like Johnny Gomes. Hey, what do you feel like when these things look like little aspirin coming at me? I don't know why it feels so. I've so much pitch pressure. No, but there are hitting gurus out there that never saw 98, but will try to pretend like they know what you're going to be feeling and they know what you can focus on and what you can, like, if you just slot your elbow correctly, you're going to be able to square this up better than it's like based on what? You know what I mean? What are you saying? Like how are you predicting what's going to happen? You never did it yourself. And I think there is something to it. I'm not saying that you have to have experience to be an effective guy at development because there's plenty of guys that know how to develop players that didn't play at a super high level. They know how to motivate guys, right? I know plenty of guys, a lot of coaches overvalue knowledge and undervalue motivation. And a lot of guys that feel like just because I played in the big leagues, you should listen to everything I say, and they're terrible coaches, right? So it's not a one size fits all, but I try to focus on the things that I have experience in or players that this has worked for this player. I'm not saying you should do it. This is what he does. Maybe you can try it if it works for you, or you can do a variation of it in your own drill progressions. But I try to stay away from saying everybody do this, everybody do that.
I think my favorite thing is what came out probably 7-8 years ago, probably when Yelich won the MVP, like the Barry Bonds drill, right? How many actual MLB players can do that drill outside of Barry Bonds? Probably not many, right? And those are the best of the best. And people try to emulate the drill and introduce it and be like, hey, if you can do this, this will help that. It's like you took something that Barry Bonds, the best hitter we'll ever see, do, and only maybe 4 to 5 other guys can do that drill. But they're like, hey, Barry Bonds did it, so let's try it. But it might not even help the person. It's a waste of time because you could probably, like, if you took Shohei, right, and with his bat path, what's the likelihood you can backspin a ball right on top of the plate? Probably, maybe if you give him 100 swings, he might be able to do it. But like you're talking about, like the minute of the highest of highest athletes on a drill, but everybody see that it's trendy and hey, Barry Bonds said it and oh, Yelich did it and then he won MVP. I gotta try it. It's like you gotta understand what level or capability you have to do something like that. And now the new trendy thing is Yamamoto's throwing 98. They're doing the javelin, right? Like if you don't throw the javelin properly, you're going to blow out your shoulder and never pick up a ball again. It's like, yeah, really cool idea. Hey, it helps the people over in Japan throw really hard. But if you have no idea what you're doing, don't go pick up a javelin and try to throw it to Guantanamo because you're like, hey, Yamamoto did it, right? Like it doesn't make sense. So like that's the thing is like you post a lot of informational stuff, but if there's no explanation or if someone's just doing it to do it, because hey, Coach Ferbs posted this, I want to try it, and they end up hurting themselves and ruining themselves, it's like you're just doing something without any knowledge to the purpose or why it's helpful. And if you're not a high level athlete, most of the things are really hard to translate and they're not going to help you, but people keep force feeding it down their throats that, hey, these high level athletes do it, so you have to do it. And it just ruins kids.
The funny thing about what you're saying is that out of all the professional, any of the guys that I've known, whether I've trained them or met them through various ways, that I ask, what's the one drill that has helped you the most in your career? I ask this to people quite often because I want to know. Because there's guys out there that try to pretend as if they have this secret sauce drill that's going to unlock somehow this big league mechanics. And not one guy that I've talked to so far said that one drill, that was the one that got me to the big leagues. Nobody says that ever. It's a combination of an exploration. It's exploration over time. It's reps. It is figuring out what's happening in game and then doing the opposite in practice. Shit, man, I haven't hit a ball the other way with any type of authority. I haven't hit a ball hard the other way in 30 at bats. Everything on my spray charts pull the right side. So in practice, why would I be pulling balls in baseball practice if I'm already doing that naturally in the game? All right, I'm going to go work on this. Even if I don't do it as well, I'm going to try to fix this hole in my game. But it's funny because a lot of these guys that you see online will try to act like if you do this, it's a math equation or something. If you do this, it will equal that. It's just not. I've never seen that happen.
I think it's also staying true to who you are. Like, right? Like we're talking about hack attacks 5 minutes ago, right? And like I could never hit a hack attack. I can't hit it now. I couldn't hit it when I played. Like I was a true guy that really wanted to see live hand. And it didn't matter if you're the worst BB thrower or the best one in the world, right? Like that's the way I learned. And I think like, which is cool to see now in a lot of the guys that are in college baseball that are in some sort of pro ball. Like guys are adapting to every player is different. Where when we went to school, that didn't fly. Every kid was the same, right? Practice was the same. Hitters did the same thing. All this. Now we're in the world of college coaches are okay adapting to the player to make the player better, which I think has made sports or the sport of baseball way better at certain colleges and certain high schools and certain travel organizations because it's not this cookie cutter bullshit, pay me your money and here you go. You're going to get the one product and maybe I get one good kid out of every 50, right? Now you're getting maybe 45 out of 50 good kids. And that may be JUCO, D1, D2, D3, NAIA because you adapted to what the player needs, not to just, hey, I played in the big leagues or, hey, I was a college coach and I taught this. So I'm going to keep teaching it this way. Now the
You know,
good
it's a
guys you see it. God,
no. It's a, the crazy thing about what you said is that the same way I asked those guys, what's the one drill that really was the one that you, and they all say there wasn't one like that. I'll ask the other way and say, if you could only have one drill, quote unquote, out of the 10 million that you see on the internet, you could only have one drill. I would say 99 out of 100 hitters say, give me a regular dude that throws BP. Maybe hopefully he's ambidextrous and he can go like righty and lefty and just throw like 10 out of 10 at the same speed and let me get my swing down, let me work on things during my, so because I can feel things in BP that I can't feel when I'm operating at game speed, right? I can't feel, oh, when I'm seeing 100 on a hack, you're stripping me down to basically hand-eye coordination and twitch, right? You're just basically, you can strip away all the hitterish qualities that hitters have and all their tempo and flow and just bring it down to how much twitch do I have and how good is my hand-eye coordination is basically what you're doing. But it doesn't make sense because we all have seen guys in AAA that are better athletes. They produce better, higher forces. They're faster. They're more athletic than the dudes in the big leagues, but they can't hit in the big leagues. So that whole entire argument it doesn't really hold a lot of water, in my opinion. And it's interesting that you said, Zach. I was a guy that just liked to see an arm swing and a dude that just went, however the BP was. If he threw balls, cool. I got better at taking pitches that I shouldn't be swinging at, that I couldn't hit hard, you know? But I feel it's pretty interesting concept that most everybody, if you only gave them one drill, it would still be the same one we did when baseball started.
I think too is like a lot of people don't know this, but like I would sit in a cage with a couple college guys, couple high school guys, Colabello, and Tukes would be sitting behind him on his
Right.
laptop talking about something else. But like we
Well,
would
that's not gonna work.
legitimately,
I'm running out of light over here.
you're good. But like we would sit in a cage and somebody would throw BP and CC would sit there and be like, that's not it. I'm not feeling that. And we would sit there for hours and hours and hours. And it's like, when you're seeing live overhand, it doesn't matter if you're with the best player in the country, the worst player in the country, or a big leaguer, right? The part of baseball today that I see that is growing, and Pee Wee likes to say this on a lot of podcasts, but it's guys talking to each other. Like when you're emulating overhand or even flips, right? Not a ball not moving off a tee, like sometimes you can, but flips or overhand, you're always talking through the process with other people. So I think it's a lot easier for a lot of people to be like, all right, I'm getting really backside happy here, or hey, I'm really out on my front side. And then the guy you're hitting with or guys you're hitting with can talk you through it of like, I see this. Where it's like, I think in anything you do nowadays, most kids are learn with others. They're not learn on their own. So when you're in a group of four, hopefully you learn something from the other three. If you're not, then you're probably doing it wrong. So I just think back, obviously, to what you said, but it's like overhand, right? I probably hit, I would say, a million baseballs with CC and Tukes in a cage at some point in my life, from whenever I started to what it is now, right? And it's like how many times I can think back to days that we sat in the facility, in their small facility in New Hampshire of 3 cages, and just sat there and hit baseballs for 5 hours in a row. Like Chris would pick me up, we would drive there, I would stay there until he left, and I don't know, dude, there was days I think he hit a million baseballs. We were there for so long, but it was him. He'd take his swings. Tukes would be like, hey, watch this video of whoever. And then they'd try to emulate or tweak something in the swing. And it'd be like, all right, I got it. We're good. We're good. We can go home.
Crazy.
It's just
I
wild.
think my favorite thing is like for me, Ferbs, me and Zack are so close. Like I would be the little one that was holding on to his pocket that would just follow him around everywhere because that's who I was. And like for me, I was probably in middle school, right on the cusp of high school. And I remember us hitting and I'd just be sitting there and Bobby, this is when like videos started to like pick up. It was like, hey, let's show these kids Albert Pujols swings or Barry Bonds swings or Ted Williams swings and see how they get on playing in the whole 9 yards. And you'd see Bobby, he'd be there fidgeting with his computer and then he would show us a video. And then Chris would be like, nah, I don't see it. And then he'd swing and it was just like Zach said, he'd be like, it felt good. And then he's done. And it was like, for me, like I got to see so many different people walk through Bobby and Wass's place. And Chris was a big proponent of it. But like,
Yeah.
just, I saw so much just people talking. And for me as a young kid, it's like, you don't really understand it. So like for me, it was like, I just go and hit baseball, field baseball, throw baseball. Right. And like, they're talking at such a high level, but I think for kids that are in the middle school, if they have that ability to be around those college kids that, hey, even if they're playing low level D3 baseball, but they're still playing college baseball, be like attracted to the knowledge of, hey, I don't know what it means right now, but 3-4 years down the line, when I'm busting my ass for a spot on varsity or to start or for that spot to get a scholarship in college, it's like, oh, that conversation I had 4 years ago in the cage is finally clicking. And people don't understand that with progress, like it doesn't, you hear one thing, it's not always going to click. So like I heard Chris say something that I was like, what the hell just came out of his mouth? But 2-3 years down the line, I'm like, I see it on like Baseball Tonight and Eduardo Perez is talking about maybe launch angle or slot or something like that. I'm
Well,
like,
yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
that's what Chris was talking about a long time ago. And I think that's the beauty of being like these team practices and you see the college kids come back to their facilities. And when you're a young kid, just be a sponge and absorb as much knowledge because you never know when it's going to actually help you. And you never know where people are going to end up. you don't know if that D3 kid, like you take Caleb Durbin, right? When I was in the College World Series, I think his team lost in the regionals. Next thing you know, I'm working a regular job. He's in the big leagues. Like you
Right.
don't know like where people are going to end up. So if you're wanting to acquire knowledge and you're listening, you're going to get better. And I think that's a big proponent for kids like in that rough like 10 to 14 age is like when those kids that are successful that have walked your shoes before that are talking and hey, they're talking through things, shut up and listen because you're going to learn something.
Yeah.
Because I I love the saying God gave you 2 ears for a reason and one mouth, and I didn't understand that until a little ways down the line. And I'm like, I'm talking way more than I'm listening to these guys, and they're way farther along than I ever was. And I
Yeah.
think that's a big thing that kids jump from. Like we were talking about the rankings, it might be like that kid who wasn't ranked at 9, but hey, now he's a Select Fest 14U kid, and all he did was sit in a cage all day and hit with a kid who was older or his brother happen to have some buddies and he's just sitting around absorbing knowledge. And I think you've probably seen so many stories like that where the kids are 8, 9 years old. They're not the best, but then they make a tremendous leap because they're busting their butt every single day and being a sponge for knowledge.
Oh, yeah. Those are the stories you love to see.
Pee I think I'll take like the opposite of obviously kind of what you said there, but it's like even take this podcast, right? Like take me reaching out to you, Ferbs, of hey, you want to hop on the podcast? And it's like you look in today's world of like I'm a firm believer. I don't take credit for anything. Like if you know me, like I want zero credit. Like a kid commits to college, it's not me, it's you. Like I just want to be the guy that helps. This is why I started doing this. But like we live in the world of like people will lie about connections essentially of like, hey, I know him or I met him or I got his phone number or I can call LSU for you tomorrow. Like, and I think the part that's cool is like somebody's going to sit here, watch this podcast and like you said earlier, like, hey, Coach Ferber did it. I don't like that guy. Right. Like, I
Yeah.
think the part of baseball that's fun to me now, and especially in the recruiting world, is like the more genuine connection you can have is gonna piss somebody else off. And I think that is kind of what travel baseball has turned into now. It's like, oh well, that kid only has, let's say, 7 recruits in the last 3 years, right? That we've gotten into college. Just use it, any team, for example. But it's like that guy might have the most connections in the world. It's just he's providing a product that is not capable for the people that he has connections with to send to. And I think that speaks a lot of volume too, is like I'm very truthful and I'm very honest with guys that I connect guys with because you don't want to send anyone that bad seed essentially that ruins that connection because you send one college coach a bad seed, you're not going to send them another kid unless it's a really, really like obscene circumstance that's out of your hands. They're not taking another guy from your program or a connection that you built with them. And they might not talk to you again.
You're right. I've seen it happen a lot. And I've made mistakes myself, when people at the lower level, when I'm trying to get information and somebody's trying to get it, and we all make mistakes on evaluations, miss on guys that you might have thought that they weren't as good and they ended up being good, or you just happen to watch them play on a day that they didn't have a good day. That's how you can see all the metrics. You can get the home the first times with the stopwatch. You can see how hard they throw with the radar gun, but there's really no way of us knowing if that was the best game he's ever played or the worst game he's ever played. So you gotta, sometimes it takes time to really, for me nowadays, I don't ever take guys after just, oh, I watched him play once, let's go. Not on a regular team, like not on a team where I have to be around this guy for a full year and his parents. And
Mhm.
sometimes parents also, you meet them one time, you know how people are. They can hide, just like a woman. You meet a girl one time, you go on one date with a girl, they can hide who they are. They can omit all the bad stuff about what they do, right? Tell you all the good things. They don't tell you their credit cards are all run up through the roof. They don't tell you that when they come out of the shower, they don't dry their hair and they make the pillow all wet when they go to sleep. They don't tell you any of these bad things, right? They tell you all the good stuff and the parents too. But over time, you start seeing these things from parents, right? Guys pacing all the time outside. He's always trashing the coach for not putting him in a certain position. And you're telling the kid one thing, and then the dad's telling him something different after the game. Or the mom that only roots when her son is up to bat and completely silent back to her little New York Times book or whatever she's reading when everybody else is hitting. You don't know these things until you see them or until you're traveling with people and The problem is one bad psycho parent or one toxic kid can ruin everybody else's experience. And I've had that happen before, so I'm much more careful. I take a lot. I take more time, and sometimes I miss guys to other programs because I'm not ready to pull the trigger on bringing somebody into my network. But that's okay. I'd rather have people that I know for a fact are good human beings.
I think my favorite part there that you touched on is the parents. And I haven't had it yet. Like you said, you have a son, Zach, as a how old still he now? 8 months, 9 months?
Almost 9 months.
And
Congratulations,
the
Mazel Tov, bro.
Thank you.
So, like, for me, like, I always found it funny because, like, our dad always coached us as kids. Like, we wouldn't have the opportunity of playing if dad didn't take out the time to coach us and everything like that. And you've just seen so many horror stories of parents, and parents don't realize that it affects a lot to do with their kid. And like you said, you might not take the kid because the parent only cares about their son or their daughter and doesn't care anything else. Or, hey, a college coach, it's the mom that's freaking out, or the dad's like, oh, my son stunk today. And he throws his glasses on the ground and storms to right field, or he's yelling at Jimmy because he made an error. You're there to have fun and to watch your kid grow as a human. Don't ruin it for everybody else. And like you said, you always have that one bad apple that makes experience way worse. And they're always going to be like, oh, that wasn't me. I didn't do that. I wasn't that bad, because they like to downplay that, hey, there's something else deeper going inside, but they're projecting it on their 12 to 14-year-old son who's just playing AAU with their buddies.
Well, for any parent that watches this podcast that might say, "Well, yeah, guys, you telling us about all the bad shit, but what's a suggestion?" Because I don't like to just trash people or say that without actually giving some type of a suggestion on how can I be a good supportive parent? How can I make this a good experience for my kid? I think in general, if I said, right, if any of us showed up at a game and we had never met you before, and we know exactly who your son is without ever having met you before, you're not in a good situation. That's would be not good, right? It should take us a little bit of time if you're being a supportive team spectator, right? It should take us a little bit of time to identify who your son is and who is not, right? That's again, it goes back to just cheering for your kid when he's out there and really just ignoring everybody else. Or um, I see a lot of times dads trying to make friends with college coaches that are watching the game, trying to approach them, make them feel uncomfortable, trying to peep over and see what they're writing in their notes. It's like, bro, what are you doing, man? You know? So I think if I was a parent, I am a parent now, but when my son gets to that age, I want to focus on the things that, the questions that my kid can control. How was your attitude today? Right? If I ask him, if he goes 2 for 3 with a single, a double, and a strikeout, and he gets in the car and I say, hey man, what happened on that punch out? It's like, dude, I went 2 for 3. You're asking me about a strikeout? You know, if I approach it that way, I feel like my son is constantly going to feel like he's got to be perfect. I feel like if I ask him, who did you pick up today in a dugout was doing worse than you? There's always somebody doing worse. No matter how bad you're doing, there's always somebody doing worse. Who did you pick up? Tell me your name and what you did. And if they can't answer it, it tells me, so you were basically being super selfish today. Is that what you're telling me? You were self-obsessed, completely worried about your own performance. You couldn't find the decency or anything to see the other kid that was didn't even get in the game. You were playing. He was sitting the bench waiting for an opportunity. He played 2 innings in right field. So you didn't say anything to him? Maybe he felt a little worse. Did you compete? How was your effort? Did you give 110 or was it 90? Did you take any pitches off? Because it looked like you were out of position. You know, like it's okay to say like, "Hey, I thought you would be in double play depth in that scenario. Was that something your coach did, or what? Why were you all the way in? Why were you on the grass?" I feel like you can ask things like that. But if I'm just continually, it's like the people that shout out your
It's
failures and whisper your accomplishments, right? That's like a famous saying. It's like you shout out your failures, whisper your accomplishments. To me, that's not good. I want to have a team of people around me that clap when good things happen in my life. right? And I want people that are around me to not, when something good happens, all of a sudden get jealous and try to somehow sabotage my joy. You know?
I think there, like, I'll be quick with it, but it's like, talk about everything. Like, don't pick on, like, this is one word of advice. Me and my dad fought till no tomorrow. PB can attest to this, right? It did shape me into the player I was, right? And that's kind of like where I hold the line with some of my players. But like, don't always pick on the negative. Like, if a kid went 0 for 3 and punched out 3 times and got the sombrero, like, maybe he made a diving catch. Talk about that. Like, I feel like we just hop on the bad, and most people don't hop on the good anymore. Like, you can win baseball games by going 0 for 3 at the plate and making the diving catch. Like, hop, just harp on the things that are good and keep the athlete's mind in the right direction. Don't let it go south. Try to keep it going north.
Yeah, I agree. I think when especially at the younger ages, I used to think that the goal of a baseball coach when I started coaching was maybe I my the point of this whole thing is to get all these kids to Vanderbilt. I want the whole point is to get them so good at baseball that they'll be able to go to LSU and get drafted and be in the big leagues and be Hall of Famers. That's the point. What I come to realize over time is that, again, depending on the age group, I kind of had to shift. What's a sign of a good coach to me is being able to adapt to the different, not just ages, but windows of development mentally and physically. And so, in that young age, when I want to focus the most on the imagination of the player, right? I want to keep young players' imagination intact as long as I possibly can. Because for as many good coaches that are out there, there's some bad ones. And it only takes one bad coach to make a kid quit baseball. And it's not that difficult of a thing to do to make somebody quit. It's not. Most parents are probably thankful. It's like, good, I don't have to spend 15,000 a year on this bullshit. You know what I mean? But if I can keep the kid dreaming, like, man, I could be Mike Trout, I could be Derek Jeter one day, right? If I could keep his imagination intact, and then that translates into him enjoying practice as much as he likes to play. And then I can take that kid at whatever age, high school, college, and just pass him up to the next guy, whatever level he is, with his imagination intact, with his love of the game intact, waking up passionate every morning, driven to get a little better every day. If I give that player like that to the next guy, I've did my job. I'm done. I don't have to get him to Vanderbilt. He could go to a low mid-major, go to a D3, go to a JUCO. But the point is, he's still his love for the game and his love for practice is intact. So I think that's a key for a lot of coaches.
So the last thing obviously I want to touch on is obviously the logo on your hat.
Oh, thanks, bro. Goated.
Yeah. So what's obviously your involvement? And obviously I've seen kind of you guys like working with athletes, and obviously you went on the spring training, what do we call it? The spring training movies? What did you call it?
It's spring training, making movies, spring training movies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's a movie these days. Now, I get, it was really started as a hobby. There was a guy that he has a young player. He was one of those guys that the people that reach out on direct messages. Sometimes they'll ask you a question about their son or a swing, or I'll see like a video they post. Say, hey, what do you think of this swing? But we had like a little back and forth. We're just like liking stories, and like, so I'm just a random dude. And he was a lawyer for China, like companies that were doing business between America and China. And he had a connection with a factory that went out of business. I guess the factory moved to Vietnam or something. So the factory was still there, but the workers stayed in China. They didn't leave. So he's like, hey, would you want to try to do some custom protective design? To mess around with some like different designs and artwork on protective gear. And I was like, look around in the space. I said, man, I don't know. Like, I don't know anything about fashion. I wear sweatpants and a t-shirt every day. What do I know about fashion? Well, I'm not a designer. He goes, no, we have an artist and things. It's like, we need to just come up with cool concepts. And we have an artist to bring them to life, but you can leverage your network of players. I'm sure if we put out some cool stuff, maybe those guys will wear it. So I said, yeah, let's try. And we put out a couple of different just basic designs of, and the whole concept with goated is we wanted to kind of honor all the goats of just of any field. Music goats, basketball goats. We got Kobe mitts, we got Travis Scott collection. Oh, like all those type of things. And it's cool because we even have Jesus. Man, Jesus is kind of a goat, if you're a Christian, right? He's a goat. So we just like all these different people and things, and we just started making creative designs. And so basically all it is it's a custom protective design company. Anything that has an element of protection. Leg guards, elbow guards, batting gloves, sliding mitts. And so we just started putting them out there and it kind of took off. It was just a hobby in the beginning. And a lot of players, we said, well, let's focus more on player feedback than trying to sell a million of anything because anybody could put out trash design. It's like if these other companies want to be like Kirkland brand, like that's fine. I would rather be like Gucci and just service the guys that want to feel different when they put the design on. Like we put some thought and energy into the design. We started out 2 years ago. We're now in 55 Dicks. We're being sold in 55 Dick's stores, so that's pretty good. In 2 years, usually, like it's hard to get in a store that sells Nike and Under Armour and Adidas. It's not easy to do that. But I did leverage I networked with some people and got to the right people, and people trusted us and said, and it's doing well. So it turned from a hobby more into something that's like maybe more sustainable long term. But we're just having fun with it. We want to branch out into different areas with maybe sunglasses, golf driver heads on covers for golf drivers and stuff like that, whatever it is, but different sports. But that's kind of what it's been. It's been fun. So I appreciate you even talk about it. It's called Goated Brands, and you can check out the website. I can post it, whatever, but it's goatedathlete.com.
I'll link it in the description when we post the podcast. All right.
Got you.
Pee Wee's favorite segment here. So
Yes.
rapid fire.
Got you.
All right. So they can be quick answers or you can add whatever you want into it. So
Okay.
better indicator of success, body language or stats?
Better indicator of success.
Ferbs, quick.
I think stats. I think stats.
Travel ball or high school baseball for exposure?
Travel ball.
What's the biggest scam in youth baseball?
You scam.
You know my answer, Ferbs. It's rankings.
I think we covered that before. I think it's the rankings is scammy. I would agree.
What's something you'd ban from youth baseball tomorrow?
Coaches that can't swing a fungo or teach a player his footwork, how to turn a double play properly, and all he does is find good players, and he's a travel agent, gets him to go there.
Tools or production?
Tools or production? Production, I'm going to go with.
Okay, hardest thing to teach, hitting or mindset?
I think mindset is very tough to teach. That takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of willingness to be able to do that. It's tough to change because I feel like you need more time. Time is the indicator. It's like I have to be around you long enough to impact how you look at things and what your perception is.
One word describe what makes it, dude.
Feel.
I love that. You can't buy it at aisle 5 in a Walmart. If you could give
I
one
got
message.
one for you, Ferbs.
Go ahead, P.
Okay.
Who did you emulate your game after when you were a kid?
I mean, I feel like I loved Ricky Henderson. He was my favorite player, but I didn't necessarily. He was an outfielder. I played third base, but I feel like from a hitting, I would always try to mess around with his like crouch down stance. I didn't end up hitting like that, but I feel like the way he played, I really liked how he like pimped fly balls and pimped homers and stuff like that. I really did enjoy that.
All right, last one to end this year is if you could give one message to every youth baseball parent watching this, and we can add player too, what is it?
A lot of times we think about what we can get from a team, whether it's exposure or confidence or being a part of something, skill, whatever it is. I feel like thinking about what we can bring to the table, like when we're at Thanksgiving, right? Am I going there thinking of what I'm going to snatch off of the table to eat, or what am I bringing to the table? Right? What am I bringing that is allowing me to have a back and forth, and it's not such a transaction, but Am I bringing a competitive edge? Am I bringing some type of culture? Am I bringing the right attitude? Am I bringing some gratefulness, or am I just bringing a bunch of selfish entitlement into this situation? See what I can get, suck out everything I can get for myself, whatever exposure I get, and then move on to the next team when they say you can't play shortstop.
All right. If anyone needs to find Coach Ferbs, you know where to find them. I mean, he's the most viral dude in baseball, practically. I feel like at this point.
I want to say I appreciate you guys. It was a long time. It's an hour and 45 minutes, but it was worth every second. I really like what you guys are doing. I thank you for having me on. I'm grateful. Thank you.
Thanks for joining. P, you got anything else? Or you good?
No, I mean, this is the first time that I had the pleasure of talking to you. I mentioned that, and everything I see on Instagram it's not for show. So, because we talk a lot about people just posting stuff to post stuff, right? And like,
Yeah.
you are everything that you post. So it's good to see someone preach what they say and live by what they do, because like we said, there's a lot of fake people out there that just post stuff for likes, and you are absolutely not that person. And the ability to talk baseball was phenomenal, but also the ability to tie in what you do for a living is great, because it's hard to separate being a human and being a businessman at the same time.
Appreciate you, Pee Wee. That means a lot. Thank you.
All right. That's a wrap on episode 30.
I should plug this phone in because